Squarespace is a wonderful e-commerce platform. And if you have a Squarespace website, you can actually unlock a lot of possibilities. So in today's conversation, I want to walk you through a tutorial, a Squarespace tutorial, step by step. This is for beginners, okay? Here are the steps I really want you to follow right now. Step number one, you want to make sure you have everything you need for your Squarespace website. Before you even start building the website itself, you do need some foundational elements, okay? Things like have a logo, have a color scheme, brand guidelines. Those are important elements. You want to have a list of site pages, your contact us page, about us, my story, okay, FAQ. Those are quite essential. You want to have content for each page. Now is the time for you to contact a freelancer or freelancers on Fiverr, on Upwork. You want, or if you are good yourself when it comes to penning, like crafting content, then start really writing articles, start writing product descriptions and everything that is necessary in terms of content, written content for your Squarespace website. You want to have it now, okay? And also think about any necessary product details, things like your images, your descriptions, your pricing, and so on and so forth, okay? By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here, and we love to have this sort of tutorials every now and then. So step number one, make sure you have everything you need for your Squarespace website. Step number two, you want to choose a Squarespace template. Now, Squarespace is known for its very sleek, very attractive, aesthetically brilliant templates. So you are going to find a Squarespace template that is suitable for your industry and niche, okay? Now, Squarespace doesn't have the large constellation, a large array of templates that Wix has or Shopify has, but Squarespace is up there when it comes to the quality of the templates, okay? Quality really sometimes is more important than quantity. So you want to choose one that suits your brain and your niche. If you can't really find one, Squarespace will suggest one to you based on the info that you entered about your business, okay? And one thing I want to say here is that once you've picked one, you can't switch to another one though. So be very careful here. Once you have picked a Squarespace template, you can't switch to another one. So be very careful here. And one thing I want to say here is that make sure that your Squarespace template suits very well your brand, but also is in sync with what the industry generally expects you to show, okay? The third thing I want you to do here is to add your business information. So, I mean, having a template is kind of cool, but you have to enter key information about your business or projects into your Squarespace settings, okay? And this happens in your Squarespace dashboard. It's very easy to do, nothing complicated. You got to add things like your company's name, your company's address, your company's phone number, and if there is a website. If you have a regular corporate website, you want to add it here too. One word of caution though. Please, whatever you put in this section, make sure you are comfortable it being exposed to the public. In other words, don't divulge anything that you would not be comfortable really revealing to the public, okay? So, and also in the language and region section, you have to enter things like your language, your site language, the metric system, the country, the state, and the time zone. And so this section will also let you connect your Squarespace site to Wiglot, which is a third-party app that lets you translate your site into other languages, okay? And one thing I also need to say here is that your Squarespace templates will basically spread all information depending on the language that Wiglot has chosen for you. Not chosen for you, but you have chosen, and Wiglot will actually connect you to the appropriate languages. That's the better way of saying it, okay? So and the thing I want to say here is that don't forget also to add your social media settings, to add your social media links rather. So this happens in social media settings, okay? So everything from your profile pages and accounts on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, make sure that you link that here. But one other thing that I need to say here is that please make sure that you only add the social media accounts that are active, okay? Because if you create a website and you have a Squarespace website and you link it to inactive social media handles, this will have a detrimental effect on your Squarespace website. So make sure everything that you have, it has to be fresh, it has to be consistent, it has to be updated so that Squarespace and Google, for that matter, the search engines will also see that you are feeding you're feeding updated, you're feeding fresh data into your website. This will help you a lot in terms of ranking, will help you a lot in terms of SEO, and down the road in terms of scaling, because you'll be drawing organic traffic to your website day in, day out. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you, today's topic, we're having a conversation about a Squarespace tutorial. Okay, this is a step-by-step for beginners. And so step number 1, make sure you have everything you need before you start. Number 2, choose a Squarespace template. Number 3, you want to add your business information. Number 4, here you have to build your site navigation. What does that mean? When you hear the terms site navigation and main menu, those mean the same thing. Okay. And one thing I need to say is that, and this is quite essential, before you create your navigation within Squarespace, take the time to sketch out a few navigation ideas on a piece of paper first. You want to spend some time thinking about how to create a menu system that lays out your content in a coherent, cohesive way, and it's really easy for your site visitors to use. What I want you to do is I want you to put yourself in your visitors' shoes, okay? And I want you to really think about navigating your own website and seeing what kind of image, what kind of content your visitors, your potential visitor will love to have, okay? Using empathy here will help you a lot and will help you see exactly you will be able to create a navigation system that is suitable for your buyer persona or for your visitor persona. Okay. And one thing you also need to think about, when we think about navigation system in Squarespace, you have things like demo pages. Those you want to delete right away, because you can just delete they're just there for information purposes. So once you are comfortable with how things work in Squarespace, you can delete the demo pages. You also have collections, you have pages. So pages are, broadly speaking, static content. Collections are groups of content like blog posts or products. And you also have a more category. Okay, those are folders and external links. And also pay attention to the Squarespace content types that you can actually post on the website. Things like it can be a picture, it can be videos, it can be images. Those should be coordinated in a very simple format. And you think about naming Squarespace pages as well. Create folders to categorize your content pretty well. You also have the set as homepage option. This allows you to actually make sure that you are setting the proper page as homepage. Okay. And also there are like, one thing that's very important to really understand is that Squarespace is constantly making sure that you have the proper data, that you have the proper website. And the thing is that you have to make sure that you have an updated website from an SEO perspective. This is why you also need to add a logo to your Squarespace site. Okay. Add a logo right now. This is actually, that's the logo that you should have had in the first place. Remember, the very first step that I told you, where I said, okay, you need to have your logo ready. Now is the time to add it. Okay, so once you add it, make sure that you actually customize your templates in terms of the colors, in terms of your logo colors. Now you want to add your content. So you want to start adding your content. When you talk about content, it can be everything from like a blog article to a video to a description about your products, about it can be also a picture, it can be anything. Okay, and there are a lot of ways to actually do that. And one important element to remember here is that Squarespace has something called content blocks. Okay, so this is basically drag and drop site elements that you can move around your page, and they display various types of content on your Squarespace site, like text, images, buttons, and forms. Okay, and what you want to do, and those things, the good thing is that you can edit those content blocks whenever you want. Nothing complicated at all. And this is really where you see Squarespace brilliance, because they have made things so easily. It's so easy. Like, you don't really need to have any coding expertise. You can do things yourself, not a problem. Okay, so when we talk about Squarespace content, we're speaking about blog posts, we're speaking about events, we're speaking about stores, we're speaking about scheduling. Okay, it really depends on the type of Squarespace content you want to post on your website. And we cannot talk about Squarespace content without talking about something called Fluid Engine. This is basically Squarespace's grid-based editor that allows you to actually do a lot of things. Okay, you can actually, again, you can resize elements, you can duplicate blocks, you can delete stuff, you can whatever it is, you can really do it. And it's a drag and drop content editor. So Fluid is called Fluid Engine. It's a drag and drop content editor that gives you precise control over block placement and allows you to easily resize elements. Okay, duplicate blocks and get creative with overlapping content blocks in general. The thing is that when we talk about posting content, if you really think about it, essentially, this process remains something creative. So don't be shy. Just take the time to show the whole world and your site visitors that you are really creative in terms of how you lay out your content, what kind of fonts. I'll talk about the fonts later on, but what kind of fonts, what kind of typeface you choose, and how you place them, the colors, and everything, and make sure that they are coherent, or they must cohesively adhere to your branding guidelines and your logo. Next, I want you to style your Squarespace site. So when we talk about, by the way, before I talk about number 7, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. This is a Squarespace tutorial, so I'm actually explaining to you everything you need to know in terms of setting up a Squarespace website. Okay, you need to style your Squarespace site. What does that mean? When we talk about styling, there is a constellation of elements you need to pay attention to. Now, everything happens, you got to go to the design option in your Squarespace dashboard. Okay, and so when you are in the design option, you need to click Site Styles. And so there you have access to a constellation of things. When we talk about styles, we're speaking about fonts, we're speaking about colors, we're speaking about animations, we're speaking about site spacing, we're speaking about buttons, we're speaking about images. Okay, one thing I need to say here is that when we talk about fonts, just make sure the fonts are not like fonts can be headings, paragraphs, buttons, and what Squarespace refers to as like miscellaneous text. Okay, and those are really important because the miscellaneous text can be quite essential depending on the kind of info it is. Okay, even though it is miscellaneous, it can still be relevant. The assign style options lets you choose which fonts to use in elements contained within your headers and newsletter blocks, site title, navigation items, fields, sign up buttons, etc. Okay, so when we talk about your site, your style, you have to think about your fonts, your colors, the animations. I want to say something about the animations. I want you to go easy on the animations though, because animations tend to make a site heavy, and so this is not the time to have a Webflow type of website. So you want to be very easy because it's a lot easier. It's more important that visitors have a great experience, user experience, UX, than having some kind of a website that's very animated and things flying here and there. But at the same time, they have a crappy user experience. You don't want that. Okay, so think about really going easy on animations. You want to think about your site spacing, think about the buttons, think about the images. Everything must be coordinated in a very simple way, but everything has to adhere with your branding guidelines in terms of color, in terms of the tone and the tone and style of your website too. Next thing I want you to do here is to connect your domain to Squarespace. Okay, so once you have your navigation, your logo, your content, and styling all sorted, it's a great time to start thinking about where you would like your site to live once you have launched it, right? So you have two options here. You have two options, very simple. You can either sit on a squarespace.com address like yoursitename.squarespace.com, which are provided to all Squarespace users for free, or a custom domain name such as yoursitename.com or yoursite.co.uk. Now, of the two options, a custom domain name is generally best because, having your own site name brand will generate considerably more trust in your website amongst your visitors. And that's what you need anyway. Okay. You can purchase a custom domain name from a domain name provider like Namecheap. Okay. Alternatively, you can buy one directly from Squarespace. In fact, if you pay on an annual basis for your website, Squarespace will give you one for free for the first year of your subscription. Going forward, the second year and going forward, you have to pay for it though. Okay. Now, one thing we always tell our clients and our viewers, for that matter, is that for security reasons, it's arguably better to use a third-party provider for your domain name. For example, Namecheap. Why? Because having your domain name and your website under the same account means you are placing both in the same proverbial basket, which can be risky from a security perspective. If you lose, God forbid, if you ever lose access to your Squarespace account, you'll be deprived of both your website and your domain name, and you don't want that. This is a situation you definitely don't want to be in. So it's just a lot better to actually separate those two. So you want to segregate your the hosting of your domain to like in terms of the hosting of your site. Okay. So, but if you are interested in getting a domain from Squarespace, or you want to connect an existing one to Squarespace, you want to go to settings, domains in your dashboard. Okay, so there you can access domain settings. Then you can choose whether you would like to buy a domain from Squarespace, so using the get a domain option, or use your own. So it's just, so after that, it's just a case of following the instructions provided. It's pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. Nothing. One thing I need to also tell you here is that be very careful before choosing a domain name. Once you actually choose a domain name, it's harder to replace. Number 9, you want to prepare your website for launch. Okay, so once your domain is connected, you could technically launch your Squarespace right away, right? But hold on, wait a minute. Don't really hold your horses. Okay, you want to check that all aspects of your websites are working as expected first. And that's where a Squarespace pre-launch checklist comes in. And you need to have that pre-launch checklist. Okay, I don't care what people tell you, you need to have it. So you want to check that all demo pages have been deleted or disabled if you intend to use them as templates in the future. You want to make sure that image file sizes are not too large, because you want to aim for no more than 100 kilobytes per image, because if it's too large, your site will be very heavy. Okay, and you don't want to have a fat website. Okay, all copy has been incorrectly added and is error free. You want to check that all the pricing, shipping, and tax information has been entered correctly for any products on your site. You want to make sure that all hyperlinks have been checked and are working correctly. You want to check that all relevant social media accounts have been added correctly and social icons are displayed okay and linking to the correct profiles. As I said earlier, you want to make sure that your profiles is updated, okay? Because you don't want to have anything outdated. So it has to be really updated. And you want to make sure that a contact us call to action has been added to each page. All forms are capturing data correctly, sending to the right email address. A fav icon has been added. A GDPR compliant cookie banner has been added correctly, okay? And a GDPR compliant privacy policy, terms of use and cookie notice pages have been approved and added. Again, this is important because, you can say, well, I'm in the States, I really don't care about GDPR because it's a European thing. No, it's not. Because if you have Europeans, like EU citizens living in the United States, visiting your website, you are still bound to comply with GDPR. So it doesn't have to be like, you're selling to European Union based customers. No, if they are, whatever they are in the world, if they are visiting your website, that law applies. You need to make sure that the key SEO checks have been completed on the site. Things like headings, page titles, meta descriptions, alt text have all been added according to the best practice. You want to check that your domain has been correctly mapped. You want to check that your site has been registered with Google Analytics, that your site has been registered with Google Search Console also, because Search Console is an important element to really think about here. And that overall the site is displaying correctly. You have to make sure that your site is displaying correctly on various formats, on various devices. Okay, responsive design. So it has to display correctly on desktop computers, on tablets, and mobile devices. Next thing I want you to do here is to publish your Squarespace website. Okay, so when we talk about publishing your Squarespace website, there are a few things you need to think about. Okay, by default, each new Squarespace website is password protected, and you will need to remove this password in order to make your site publicly visible. I mean, this is just one extra layer of security that Squarespace has put in place so that people don't accidentally publish websites they're not ready to publish. Okay, so you're gonna have to manually remove that password. So Squarespace is sure that you indeed wanted the site to become visible, to become public. Okay, so to do this, you got to go to Settings, Site Availability in your Squarespace dashboard, choose the public option, and follow any instructions provided. If you haven't purchased the Squarespace plan yet, you will need to do so as part of this process, and that's it. So once you do this, your Squarespace is really live. One thing I need to really say here is that it's not just about having a Squarespace website live. Once you have it live, this is where the work really starts, right? So because you need to feed the content into the page, and if it could be content from a blog, it could be content based on your e-commerce store mission, like products, and it can be a physical product, it can be digital products, it could be downloads, it can be anything. Okay, and you also have to think about SEO. You have to think about having the right tags. You have to think about making sure that you are increasing your site. You are reducing, rather, not increasing. You are reducing your site bounce rate, so people spend more time on your site. Okay, you have to think about having the ability to increase your brand authority. You need to increase your leadership on specific topics. Okay, so that gradually you can start building an audience. Okay. This is the time also where you have to think about having if your website has. If the company behind your Squarespace online store is a legit company, then you want to put the physical address of that company too. But you have to register that in something called Google Business. So Google Business is actually when you tap a keyword in Google, and you go to map, and Google tells you all the businesses there are in the vicinity. This is what Google Business does. So you want to have a profile on Google Business as well. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I gave you a tutorial on Squarespace and all the steps you need to follow to make sure that you are present with you have your Squarespace website launched quickly. So make sure, number one, make sure you have everything you need. Number two, choose a Squarespace template. Number three, add your business information. Number four, build your site navigation. Number five, add a logo to your Squarespace site. Number six, add your content. Number seven, style your Squarespace site. Things like fonts, colors, animations, site spacing, buttons, images. Number eight, you want to connect your domain to Squarespace. Number nine, you want to prepare your website for launch. Number 10, you want to publish your Squarespace website. Thank you. God bless you. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.